Okay, so it's good to be here. This is actually one of my favorite classes, skills and techniques. Make sure you're in the right class. Um, and one of the reasons why it's one of my favorite classes is because it's all experiential in nature. There's no papers, there's no exams. Everything is either practicing a skill, learning a skill, practicing a skill, or recording it, and then we all watch it together. Uh, so first of all, let me tell you a little bit about my philosophy of teaching and my methodology. And you can ask questions or whatever. And then we'll kind of go over the syllabus. And then I'll stop recording and we'll have kind of a icebreaker. Okay. Because eventually everybody's, I'm hoping, will really get to know each other in this class. It's one of those types of classes where we all interact with each other. And it's one of the classes where I think students develop some friendships and really get to know each other. I get to know you too, more than like lecture classes. All right. So let me tell you a little bit about my philosophy, how I came to this point, and and how I teach this class. Um, so, and if you had me for theories, anybody in my theories class? So, Lauren, you get to hear it a second time. All right. Yeah, I mean, I do teach a bunch of classes, so by the time you graduate, you'll know my whole life story. So yeah, so it was a winding path getting to this point. Um, but I had never actually thought that I would either be in counseling, becoming a therapist. I never thought I'd be teaching it. But sometimes life leads us on some winding journeys, and until we find the place where we belong, and that's a good fit. So um, I can tell you that I certainly believe in the benefits of therapy, but I also believe that it's just like any profession. Like, it took me a long time to find the right doctors or the right dentists, and it's the same with therapists. We have to find therapists that we feel comfortable with, that have the appropriate skills. But I do think part of it's personalities, but a large part of it is therapists learning the appropriate skills. Because honestly, I've met a lot of therapists at conferences and other places, or interviewing people for different jobs that just don't have that foundational knowledge or skills. And I'm wondering, well, what do they do in therapy? They talk about the client's day, uh, and or it becomes uh, kind of unprofessional therapy where they do problem solving or time management or things like that. We're not going to do any of that. We're going to work on basic skills. And so, one of the things I wish I could do is just make this class pass fail. Maybe it is pass fail. I don't know. But yeah, I don't really want uh, to deal with any grades in this class. I really want it to be either you gain the material and learn how to apply it, or you don't. And honestly, I've very rarely had individuals that did not pass this class, and the only reason they didn't is because they didn't show up or participate, basically. That's the only reason. So if you put forth an effort, and I think the hardest thing to do in this class is to practice during the week, because it's tough to practice counseling skills outside of this class, because you have to find somebody to practice with. It takes two people to practice these counseling skills. That's the hardest part. But I think that's one of the most important parts, is just to practice the basic skills that we learn in between classes. So my teaching philosophy is basically, I wouldn't want to go to a doctor that passed a class with a B, if they're going to treat me. I want the doctor to know all of the basic knowledge that's required to use their skills. And, it's the same with counseling. We might not be doing surgery, but we are dealing with real people and human lives. And I think it's really important to have the basic knowledge and the ability to apply that knowledge before we meet people in practicum or internship. And that's the goal. So all of the assignments in this class are basically recordings of you using your skills with a partner. And then we're going to watch them together and give feedback. And, but if you missed something, the worst thing that could happen, which isn't bad, is you're just going to re-record it. Just do it again until you get it. So nothing bad's going to happen at all. You just keep trying until you get it. And, so I think that is a pretty good philosophy, that you can do it as many times as you need to. So with that being said, a lot of students, because these tapes take a long time to make, and they don't want to inconvenience their partners. So they might be thinking, oh, Grafton's a nice guy. Let me just see what he thinks of it. I know it's not perfect, but maybe he'll let it slide and maybe I won't have to do it again. Don't make me that guy. Don't make me the guy that says you got to redo your tape, because you've got an entire week to make these tapes with your partner. You can redo your tape 2, 3, 4 times, as many times as it takes until you get it right. Don't show it to the class knowing that Grafton might say you got to redo it, because you'll just feel bad. Oh, I can't believe it. We'll get that sense of failure, the fear of failure, and oh, I can't believe Grafton made me do this in front of the class and blah, blah, blah. But, so you can do tapes as many times as you want before you share them with the class. And you're not going to inconvenience your partners. We're all together in this. It's okay to try to do things 2 or 3 times, and you'll do the same for your partner, So in one sense, it's a lot of work, but in another sense, you don't have to worry about a grade. So it takes that whole dynamic off the table, and it's still going to take some getting used to, because students in grad school have spent K through 12 and 4 years of college worried about their grades. It's a hard thing to unlearn. So, so I guess the next most important thing I want to begin with is trying not to be defensive when we receive feedback, because that's what supervision is. We're going to get supervision the rest of our lives. not just while we're in school, not just while we're getting our LPCs. It's for the rest of our lives if you want good insurance. So it's important to know how to give good feedback and to be respectful and diplomatic and insightful. But it's also important to receive the feedback without becoming defensive. Because hey, we're all together in this. We all need to learn and grow. Me too. I can make a tape today and show it to one of my colleagues. They'll give me feedback and of things I can improve. And even when I watch the tape myself, I'll give myself feedback. Oh, maybe I should have tried this. Oh, I didn't think about this at the time. You know, there's always something we can improve upon that maybe we didn't think about in the session. So I think one of the things that everybody has a fear of, including myself, is when I started out in practicum and saw the first clients, my main fear was that I didn't want to harm anybody, you know? And the, you know, I think that one of the things I did was overcompensate. I really learned all my theories, which is not a bad thing. But I also wanted to plan out every session and you know, I'd go in and I'd meet with a client. I was ready. I knew what I was going to do with that client, that session. And the sessions turned out okay, but they were just okay. And what I learned over time was that I had to have that foundational knowledge of skills and theory and how to treat different diagnoses. But I also had to learn how to give up control in the session and give that control to the client. And that's one of the hardest things I ever had to do because people like control. And the reason they like control, including me, is a fear of failure. So I think that that's going to be one of the toughest things is to learn those basic skills, but then to give up control in the session and trust in our ability to use those skills with whatever the client ends up bringing to the session, trusting that we'll be able to respond. And that leads me to my second biggest fear. And my second biggest fear is running out of things to say with the client. Well, how am I going to fill up an hour with a client if the client runs out of things to talk about? And sometimes we will get challenging clients. But honestly, if we develop the skills and techniques in this class and we develop our knowledge of basic theories, we'll usually be able to respond even if it's addressing the resistance. So, oh, I notice you're very quiet today. Let's talk about that. So there's always some way to address what's happening in a session, even if they're not talking. But it's not our job to talk throughout the whole session. We can't work harder than our clients. So that's kind of a basic idea of kind of my teaching philosophy. And we're going to look at the syllabus. But I'm not sure whether you've heard about what this class is like or whether you had not heard anything. But, you know, that's why it needs to be synchronous. That's why you have to come at a certain time on Zoom or in person. And so it's really important because everything is about participation. And if we're not the ones recording, if we're not the one showing our tape and receiving feedback, it's just as important to give feedback to your classmates. So we're always participating in some way. So you need to be present. Now, when we're talking about all of the different things, I do give a few lectures in this class, but this is not a lecture-oriented class. This is an experiential class, and that's something new to get used to as well, because I begin with a lecture, I teach you the basic skills and what you need to learn, then we practice, and then we record. But learning is multi-layered in this class. And the first layer is a lecture. This is the knowledge that you need to gain. The next part is the practice. You're practicing applying that knowledge. The next part is recording a session with a partner. So then you're doing kind of an actual session with a partner. The next thing is you're watching your own session and you're kind of evaluating yourself, seeing, oh, I did this really well. Oh, maybe I need to do this. Try it again a different way. The next part is receiving feedback from everybody in the class and acknowledging it, not becoming defensive, and learning from that feedback. The next part is you learn through watching other people's tapes. And you'll learn just as much by watching other people as you do by doing it yourself, doing the skills yourself. The next part of the learning is by giving other people feedback. And by feedback, if you say, oh, I think you did a great job. Well, great job at doing what? Were they using additive empathy? Were they reflecting? Were they summarizing? And what was it about it that they did well? Now, most people are going to want to give positive feedback because, oh, we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But hey, this is professional feedback, you know? And sometimes it's just as important to give other ideas. Oh, well, when she said this, I might have tried this instead of what you did. And that's just an alternative thing that people could have done. It's other ideas. Or maybe we could have done something in a little different way. Or maybe we were talking too fast, or maybe our tone of voice was, a little harsh, or maybe we could have had more empathy, or maybe we forgot to reflect. So it's just as important to give constructive feedback as it is to give positive feedback. So all of those things go into the learning process. The other way I teach is I find teachable moments in each recording. So even though it might not be in the required material that you include, I might find something in a recording that, oh, well, this is something that's worth mentioning, and I might talk about how to use REBT in this situation, or give you a case example of a client that I had, or things like that. So it's very interactive teaching style. And I never know what's going to happen. And that's one of the things I like about this class. The other thing I want to say, and this is very important, is that everybody gets a chance to be a counselor and everybody gets a chance to be a client. But we're not going to get into therapy here. That's why we have counseling centers. You know, and I want to make sure that you understand that you are always in control of the session. You are always in control of what you share. And, we're not going to share anything about trauma or abuse or any severe uh, diagnosis. We don't need to get into that here. And if you share something and you feel as though the session's getting too deep or too personal, remember, you're in control. You can simply say time out. We're getting a little too deep. You stop the recording and start it over again with a different subject. So what we're doing is basic self-awareness, okay? This is not therapy. This is kind of like personal growth, self-awareness stuff, you know? So I think that the most important thing is I want you to feel safe. You don't have to feel comfortable, but you do need to feel safe. And by giving you the control, it's up to you when you start, when you stop, what you share. So just remember that. I think that's one of the most important things that, we're not doing therapy here. We're practicing skills. We might gain some new self-awareness, maybe a little personal growth, but nothing crazy deep, you know? So just remember, you can stop at any time. You can share whatever you want. You don't have to share whatever you don't want to share. It's totally in your control. So that's kind of a basic intro, and we're still going to look at the syllabus. And I have guidelines and outlines of what we're going to be doing for each tape. We're going to have lectures, but it's mainly going to be experiential. With this number of people, see, we got 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. That's a lot of people for this class. Normally, we have about 12. So 16 is a lot of people. Normally, we do 3 tapes a semester, but I'm okay if we only make it through 2. I'm flexible. I will take as much time as it needs, as you need, to watch the tapes, to talk about the tapes, and to get feedback for the tapes. That's the most important thing. I don't want to rush through, these sessions. But we do have to make it through at least 2 to make it through all of the skills. If for some reason you need to redo a tape, we're not going to watch it a second time in class. I'll just watch it the second time to see if you covered the skills that need to be covered, and then I'll give you credit for it. So it's kind of like an all or nothing, pass, fail kind of thing. But we're only going to watch a tape once. So if you have to redo it, then the second time I'll just watch it by myself and give you the feedback. So that's kind of the general things. Any basic questions but we're going to go through the syllabus next. So what are your thoughts so far? Is this a little different than classes you've had? Have you had a similar class? Are you kind of wondering about anything? All right, well, I'm hoping that this class will be fun, interesting, interactive, but that really depends on everybody kind of talking. So, and sharing and giving feedback and working with one another. So we have 4 people here in class, and we have 12 people online, and both are even numbers. So that's a positive. And I think that when we pair up into breakout rooms, it should work out pretty well. All right, let's look at the syllabus. Oops, let's try that again. Share. I wonder why it's not sharing. All right, it says it's sharing for me. But it's not sharing on your screens.
I can see it.
Oh, you can see it? Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay, great. But the people here can't see it. Let's see. Um, There you go. All right. So everybody can see that. So basically, you got the basic syllabus stuff. The best way to contact me is through email. I check it all the time. But like I'm here in my office, I'm at the psychiatric unit at a local hospital, St. Clair Hospital. I'm all over the place, but I can check my email no matter where I'm at. I cannot check voice messages everywhere. But I do check email fairly regularly. So yeah, if you have any problems or questions, email's the best way. All right, so the textbook. So I cover all of the main topics in the textbook, but I do not teach from the textbook. So I have my own notes, I have my own outline. So what I'm saying is Ivy and Ivy is a famous textbook. So everybody knows it. You do not have to buy a brand new version of it. You can buy a couple editions ago, so like 2 editions old. You should be able to get it for like $30 used, plus shipping. We're not going to have an exam. We're not going to have a test. I'm not going to say, oh, today's chapter 3, but I am going to talk about the concepts. I'm going to talk about, uh, being present, we're going to go through person-centered theory and how to apply it using reflection and paraphrase and summarization and all of those skills. We're going to talk about, ethics and learning confidentiality and the limits of confidentiality. All of those things are expanded upon in chapters in the textbook. So the reason to get the textbook is basically as a study guide for comps and the NCE. That's why I would get it, but I wouldn't spend a lot of money on it. I'd buy a used copy for $30 and kind of follow through it as we move through the course. But I do know that Ivy and Ivy is one of the sources that comps in the NCEUs because it's such a famous textbook. So I did pick the most popular textbook for you, one that has a lot of editions. You can get an older edition and save a lot of money, but do not expect me to talk about it chapter by chapter. I do give you, as we move through topics, I do give you chapters in the book for one of the more recent editions, but those chapters may change. So you kind of got to go by the topic title. All right. Lots of K-Crep stuff. This is basically the departmental grading scale. We have to use this grading scale for every syllabus. We're either going to do 2 to 3 tapes, depending on how far we get in the class. And it goes by a percentage. But like I said before, the worst thing that can happen is you redo the tape. So I'm trying to kind of do away with the stress of a grade, and I'd just like you to focus on the skills and content. That's the goal, that you just learn the most important skills and you're able to apply them. And if you're having a problem or struggling, I'll help you, and you redo the tape and you get full credit. That's the goal. I would rather somebody graduate with an A or a pass and learn the skills and have you do the tape multiple times than have you leave with a B and not know them as well as I think you should. So, all right. So this gets into like students with disabilities, the Office for Students with Disabilities. If you have a disability, of course, I'll accommodate you any way I can. But you do have to go to the Office of Students with Disabilities, and there's some paperwork, but I'll do whatever I can to help you to be successful in this class, whatever that takes. All right. And then we kind of have our course schedule, and it goes week to week. It has chapters in one of the more recent Ivy textbooks, but the chapter number changes with different editions. So if you get an older edition, just go by the topic, basically. Because the chapter number might be different depending on what edition you get. But you're in grad school, you can figure that out. All right. And then it gives the K-Crep standard that's covered each week. So just to give you an idea of kind of what is upcoming. So, today we're going to talk about some basic things after we're done going through the syllabus. Next week, we're going to finish the requirements for tape 1, and we're going to make a practice tape, just a basic practice. It's not going to count for anything, but you're going to get your feet wet, and then we're going to watch them in class together and laugh at them, Oh, look how fast I talked. Oh, I can't believe my voice is so high. Whatever, look at how I talk with my hands, all the little stuff that might bother us. And so it's just for fun. And then on week 3, so this is week 1, next week we practice. week 3, we're going to go through and divide up into groups and practice what we're going to be doing for the entire tape 1. Okay, and you'll go into like breakout rooms, you'll divide into pairs, and I'll just visit each breakout room. I'll listen, I'll see how you're doing, I'll make comments and suggestions, and you can ask me questions if you're stuck somewhere. Okay. So we're gonna have, if we have 16 people online, we're gonna have 8 breakout rooms. That's a lot. And we have 4 people here, we'll have 2 sets, so not too bad. But it does take me a little while to visit each group with this many groups, but that's okay. You just have to be patient until I arrive. Just keep going. All right, and then our first recording is class 4. So week 4, you'll actually make your first recording. Now, the way we do recordings is we usually use Zoom. And so we're not going to come to a physical class the night of the recording. Everybody's going to log on to Zoom. I'm going to answer any questions you might have, and then you're going to leave. And you're going to log on your own Zoom so that you can hit record for your session. And I would record it on your computer rather than the cloud. It just seems to work better. And but I'm going to stick around until 9:30. In case somebody's having a problem, you can come back and see me and ask any questions you might have, and then go back again. So I'll always be in this room. And I want you to check in with me before you're done with the night, just so I know everybody's okay emotionally, didn't get into any, triggering subjects. Just want to make sure everybody's good, or if anybody has any questions before the night's over. Now, let's say you really messed up on your tape that night. Well, it doesn't matter, because you can retape it anytime you want that week. I just want to be there for your first taping, your first try, in case you had questions or problems. But you can meet with your partner and redo them as many times as you want throughout the week. So it's not an all or nothing thing. In fact, I'd recommend that you watch the tape together and see how you did, and then decide, oh yeah, let's do it again, but it's getting late. Let's do it again Wednesday. Let's do it again Thursday. Schedule a time with your partner. And then you'll see that I scheduled 3 classes just to review your tapes. And the way that works is I usually try to watch partners' tapes one after another. And if I watch your tape as a counselor, I'd like the partner to be present that night too, because if we say something, oh, well, he or she said this, and that means this, I just want them to be present to hear it. It's just a matter of respect that they're present to hear whatever we say. But that should give us plenty of time to make it through the first tape. And, and as we watch the tapes together, everybody can give feedback, and, everybody will have something to improve. Everybody will have something they did really well. And, if something happened, you forgot something and you need to include it, you can record it again. It's no problem. It's not the end of the world. I just see it as practice. I took this same class back in 1992. And, I re-recorded things like half a dozen times. You know, and then back then it was on cassette tape, and then I'd listen to them as I drove around in my car. I'm like, oh, I can't, so, you know, and then as we move forward, then we'll tape our second tape in class 9, and we'll review it, same thing. And we'll just be doing some different skills. And then at the end, we'll see how much time we have left. But at the end, hopefully, we'll have time to do a third recording. And it'll just be with the skills you already know, but hopefully you'll be really good at it by then. So it's almost like, hey, see how well I'm doing. That's the goal. And for the last tape, we're not going to watch the entire tape. We're just going to watch any 10-minute segment that you choose that demonstrates a skill you know. And so we should have time to run through them. That's 160 minutes if we watch a 10-minute segment for 16 people, 180 for 18 people. So yeah, well, I think we got 16 people. Yeah, 160. So we should be able to make it through those. But that's really all we're going to do for this class. It's not too complicated. And believe it or not, these really are basic skills. And if you want to know the theory behind the skills, it's all Rogerian theory. And I think that if you know any theory going into practicum, Rogerian would be the one to know, because you're able to build trust with your clients. You can combine Rogerian, person-centered, with any other theory like CBT, REBT, DBT. So I think it's really the most versatile theory that you can learn basic skills with. It'll also help you to get to a deeper feeling, which leads to a deeper issue, and you can move forward once you find the deeper issue. All right, so questions about the syllabus or the process?
Will we have the same partner the whole time, like for video 1 and video 2, and like be
So
do
yeah, so the first one, the practice that we do together, you'll keep that partner for your first tape. So you'll be used to them, you'll feel comfortable with each other, hopefully. But then for tape 2, I'd like you to get a different partner, just to mix it up a little bit. What else?
When we do the recordings on Zoom for the tapes, I know that sometimes it times out the sessions after like 40 minutes, I think. How could we get around that?
So your sessions are only going to be 30 minutes.
Okay.
So there you go. What else? So what you do is first you tape yourself as the counselor, and then you stop Zoom. And then and then you log on again and do another 30-minute session. So I would just do Zoom twice, one for each session.
So
What
wait, does
else?
that, oh yeah, so wait. So if we're doing it like that, does that mean it's 2 different videos, or how does that work?
Well, one video would be with you as a counselor, and
Okay,
one video would be with your partner as the counselor. So it's actually 2 sessions.
I see. Okay, so it's 2 separate sessions. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Because each of you has to be the counselor, each of you has to be a client.
Right. Okay, got it.
So it's like 2 30-minute sessions, one each. All right, we're gonna take a 10-minute break. We're gonna come back at like 5 after 8. And we're gonna go over the first things we need to know for the first tape. So I'll see you in a little over 10 minutes.
Sounds good. Thanks.